So let me begin, is to ask you, well, what motivated you to study nutrition at the beginning? What were your dreams and aspirations when you went to nutritional school?
Yeah, I think like many of us, it was health oriented, right? So I became super interested in paleo, and at the time, I was a really active person. I love rock climbing, I loved running, I loved just fitness in general, and overall well-being. My mom was never really a healthy person, and I actually popped up with eczema randomly, and I had never had eczema, but I had had other health issues such as stomach aches and headaches and fatigue and stuff that was kind of unrelenting from the time that I was a teenager. And sure enough, okay, I was a mom, I was a young mom, of course we're going to have those like ups and downs of fatigue, but it started really getting me interested in the health of the liver and the gut and how that affects our skin. And so I went through the Western medicine kind of route, but figured out that they didn't really think that it was anything related to nutrition or potentially something else. And so, we tried a few medications or whatever, and it didn't help the eczema. And so I started digging into natural nutrition more and found out about like liver cleansing, and ended up taking some milk thistle for 5 weeks and, removing sugar from my diet, and my eczema went away. And of course I felt really great and everything was good. And so at the start it was really just about overall health and wellness, and through that, well, now it's totally geared toward my son's allergies. He has anaphylactic allergies and food sensitivities. And so while I was going through the program, I had my third son, and he had colic for like 9 months. And so we've been able to kind of navigate that with him and rebuild his gut. And my fibromyalgia is actually now being diagnosed. Hopefully, I'm saying hopefully, which you don't want to be diagnosed with anything else, but as an autoimmune condition, most likely rheumatoid arthritis and like adrenal fatigue. And so I'm able now to kind of look so much deeper into it. And so it's just a constant learning journey that I love being on. And Sean's a personal trainer, I'm a nutritionist. And so we always kind of push each other to just keep exploring and learning about nutrition. But that's the gist anyways. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a similar path, like, that you try so many things with this chronic condition. And at the end, like, is nutrition has the most lasting change. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've looked at your LinkedIn file, your profile, because I'm also on that as well. And I saw, wow, like, you have quite a versatile career path.
Yeah. Jane of all trades, pretty much. And it's not even all on there. Everything that I've done is not on there, which mine is mind boggling. But yes, I've done almost everything, car sales to nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so then I wanted to ask is, as you were navigating, like, your career path, how did you decide, like, when to endeavor to reach your dream and your goal, and when to embark on a new path and take a new turn?
Yeah. You know what? It was probably with a lot to do with, my son being born. And originally I went into nutrition, yes, because I wanted to help as many people as I could. But I think that Sean and I made a decision that we were just not cut out to work for other people. We both have a drive and a desire to push past just sitting behind a desk and doing what somebody told us to do. And so we both kind of broke off on our entrepreneurship journeys together. And I've always kind of just been that way. I've always really loved management and organization and all of those things. And so running a business for me just seemed like the next logical step for me to be actually able to make an income, especially in Vancouver. I mean, you come from Vancouver, you know that the wages there do not match the housing prices and all of those things. So if I actually wanted to make a decent wage without a formal education and without a bachelor's or a master's, I had to do something that maybe was outside the box. And I like living outside the box. So perhaps that's why I went that way. Perhaps, I don't know. But yes, that I would say that's probably why, is just an overall drive to just, make my life the way that I wanted it to be and not the way that somebody else wanted it to be
Mhm.
based on a schedule.
Yes. Yeah. I really resonate with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a Vancouver thing, I think.
Uh,
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, but it's unfortunate because I grew up from a Chinese family, and they were
Yeah.
all about finding a secure job and on a straight path, and
Yeah.
then you get a pension and you retired. So I grew up with that for 10 years, and then I just feel it's not right inside. So this is my first time, like, stepping out. I feel like I'm getting off the boat now. I'm trying to walk on water. I'm not sure if it's possible.
It is. You'll make it there. I promise. I promise.
Thank you. So, and I wanted to focus on your love meal prep business. So
Yeah.
the Cook with Love meal prep business, because that's one of the idea I'm thinking of starting my own journey. So, yeah, as I said, like I'm a new entrepreneur to be. I want to know is who were your clients, and can you describe a little bit about that business and like, did you operate in your own kitchen or do you need to get a commercial kitchen or?
Yeah, so it's a bit complicated. I mean, that aspect of it is where you can do it is a bit complicated, but I'll just start. My clients, so when I first started out in consulting, I was actually working in a gym, two gyms to be fair. And so I collaborated with the gym to get my clients. And I loved what I did. I had a great program. It worked. My clients saw results. But then I had clients who didn't get results and they had barriers that, us as nutritionists couldn't really take on ourselves, but, they were busy with work or, they had a busy family or they just didn't know how to navigate their health issue properly. Or they were so sick that, trying to make food that was nutritious for them was almost impossible. And then there was the stay-at-home moms or the moms who wanted to be able to cook healthy meals. And so after kind of burning out in the gym because I wasn't feeling fulfilled in the work that I was doing, I decided to, well, actually, I have to thank my one client. I won't say her name, but she was one of those people, a busy entrepreneur. She lived alone. She had health issues. She needed specific food. And she was like, look, I love your plan. I love the idea of what you are offering me. But she's like, I'm just not going to be able to implement this. Will you cook and shop for me? And I was like, I don't see why not. And then I started getting more clients asking the same thing. And then I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. And so I was working as an instructor and in the admin at CSNN Vancouver. And I kind of put out the notice like, hey, I'm going to be transitioning from, consulting to doing this meal prep business. And I'll be leaving CSNN Vancouver at this date, da 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 da. So I put it out there. And within a couple weeks, I was like fully booked. I had to leave CSNN early, and then I was able to actually hire other RHNs and holistic nutrition professionals to work with me part-time. And so we ended up operating, if you have any questions about this, by the way, just ask me after so I can add in. But yeah, I ended up working it out that it was easier and more cost effective to actually work in the home of somebody because they were hiring you as a contractor instead of as a as a professional in a kitchen. So renting a co-working space in a kitchen is very expensive, especially in Vancouver. Your overhead is going to be a few $1,000s probably a month already straight off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's all of the regulations that you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
And the health permits and the licenses and all of those things that cost a lot of money. And so it didn't make sense for me to go that route because I would have needed a lot of startup cost. And so the loophole was working in their kitchen because I was hired as help. And so I didn't need to have anything. I did acquire, food safe and that sort of thing, just so that it was they could see that I was cooking in a safe manner. But yeah, I ended up working in people's homes, much like a cleaner would come into your house, clean your home, and leave. I came into your house, I cooked food based on a specific nutrition plan too for those people and their health concerns or fitness goals or whatever. And I would just cook all the food, usually half fresh, half cooked, and frozen for later in the week. And then I would just lock up and go. So it worked out super well by the end. So I started this about a year before we actually left Vancouver. And within that year, I had 4 other holistic nutritionists working for me. And I was able to sell my business for a profit within the first year. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of one of those things that just blew up, and I was really fortunate. And I think it is a very, very, very smart business choice, because it's something that I would love to have now in Switzerland and I can't find over here, so it's that's kind of how it happened and how it functioned.
Mm-hmm. So it was initially a request.
Yeah, it was a request from a client, and I was like, okay, maybe, yeah, okay. And then I was like, oh, maybe there's more. Maybe there's more to this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that's how you got your first client. And what would you say are some key points that help you continue that relationship? Because obviously you have this running for over a year and it keeps on generating revenue. So what do you think brings the clients keeps coming back to you?
Yeah. So this kind of touches on one of the things I'm going to say later, but a lot of us see other holistic nutritionists or other health professionals as competition almost. And it's actually through these collaborations that I was able to make a successful business. And that would go for any nutrition business, is like collaboration is key. So networking. So I was part of a business networking group in Vancouver. I would sign myself up for, health fairs, or people would find me on the internet for their wellness kind of spend within their corporation and have me come in and do a talk, share some of the food that I often created for my clients. And I would put myself out there that way. I also went into gyms and told them about my services. I left pamphlets there and collaborated in that way and found places to actually share what I was doing. And that led to the majority of my referrals, to be honest.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And so I guess it's great, that you have a low cost because you don't have to have a rental space. At that time, things would have changed because now with the COVID,
Yes.
yeah. But I would imagine, with any business, there's always some funding that you needed to have to start a business. Do you have any sources that, where you can get your fundings?
Yeah, so I actually advocate for low startup costs. And that's actually one of the things that I coach a lot, is how to start your business up for as cheap as possible so that anybody with any budget can actually start a business. So, if you have a few $100 kicking around, maybe maximum 1,000, you could start your business without an issue. And that's exactly how I did it. And then as you grow and as you gain clients, then you grow the technical side or the financial side in that sense. If you have a concept that you need funding for, my recommendation honestly would be to find a bank that is a cooperative bank and has, funding for small businesses, specifically for those things, and do your research before you hop into a business that costs $1 million to start, right? Don't take out that loan at that bank. Don't take out money on your credit cards if you are not sure that your idea is going to work, because I hear it so often that people spend thousands of dollars starting up their business, their idea doesn't work, or they don't push in the right direction or whatever, and then they've had all this money wasted. So I would just say, do your market research, find a cooperative bank that has small business loan that is in line with what you're doing and has support for small businesses to help you actually succeed. And that would be where I would start for funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what I'm thinking is now with the COVID, I would imagine I would not be able to cook at my client's place. So I will definitely need some kind of kitchen. I am more inclined to just renovate my own kitchen to make it food safe. This
Mhm.
way, the investment actually it stays in my home.
Yeah. And that's one of the tricky parts too, is because there are spaces that you can go and rent, right? So another loophole that you can find is, another kitchen that's already food safe, already regulated by the health authorities in your area, and asking them, for example, like a cafe or a restaurant that's closed that you can cook in at odd hours, where, maybe there's a restaurant for whatever reason closes from, I don't know, 9 till 1. Then you can go in and cook and rent their kitchen from them, sort of thing. And so those are some of the options that I had thought of as well, and that I know other cooks use, at least in Vancouver, to save on cost. But it does depend on the health regulations of where you live and what the health authorities say, right? Right now, I could, in Switzerland, for example, go into somebody's house and cook without issue, even though COVID is still happening. Um, but I know that in Canada it's a little bit different, and it would all depend on what province you're in, right? So
Okay, that's
lots to think about.
yes, yeah. So were you do you mind sharing like how long did it take your meal prep business to break even? Like from the beginning where you begin to start and when it actually
Yeah.
yeah.
Right away. Right away. So the startup costs of the business, I mean, I bought, a big bin of stuff. So I had spices and cooking materials that I would need, some sheet pans, some paper for cooking, and a few other basics, that I would take along with me to a person's house. And then as I got to know the kitchen, I would know what I would have to take for specific clients, given specific recipes, right? So it did take some organization, but I would say within the first month or two, we were breaking even, if not making a profit. Within the first year, we made over 100,000 profit. So
Oh, that's very encouraging.
it is. There is a business here. I swear to God, people should do this more often.
And did you receive any culinary experience? Like, did you work in restaurants in the past, or did you actually go pursue some formal training while you're on the job?
So I've always loved cooking. I got pregnant when I was really young and I was not very wealthy. And so I learned how to cook because I wanted expensive things like lamb and tasty food when I was pregnant. So I did teach myself how to cook when I was younger. And I loved baking when I was a kid and a teenager. And of course, having a husband who what is an athlete, you learn how to cook quite a bit because you have to feed, and then 3 kids too, right? You have to feed your family somehow. But Vancouver CSNN does offer a holistic culinary program, and they have a whole kitchen. So I actually, while I was in admin and instructing at CSNN, I also was the kitchen assistant. And so I sat in on their culinary certificate with the instructors teaching. And so I did learn a lot of cool tricks and new recipes and different things like fermentation from them. But it did kind of solidify a little bit more of my knowledge in cooking, and maybe yeah, I would say that would be the only true culinary skills that I have, would be learning from those chefs and picking up the same information that the RHNs get from CSNN.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely, I did host some cooking workshops, which helped me like refine my process in cooking and all of that as well. So, yeah.
Do you mind if I add a question? Is how much do you charge? How did you charge a client? Do you charge them a meal or your labor cost or like a package?
Yeah, and that, I mean, you could do it any way, but my preference was to package up my hours. So they could buy a 15, 30, or 45 minute, not minute, 45-hour package, which would last roughly like a big package would last roughly about 3 months with the average client, as long as it wasn't a big family or something like that. And so the more hours they bought, it got cheaper per hour. So I think my base rate was 65 per hour for a 15-hour package, 60 for the 30, and 55 for the 45, which is pretty low. Like you could probably charge more, but it's still a decent wage. And then the groceries were charged on top of that. So as soon as I would go shopping for somebody, they would reimburse me for that shop so that it wasn't costing me money and I didn't have to calculate that into the price. It was a completely separate thing. And they could then choose a little bit more also on the quality of the food that they were getting. So if somebody's budget was a little bit tighter, we could kind of reduce the quality of the food a bit, not on the cooking, but on the quality of the actual food, and then go from there. So if somebody wanted all organic, that was on them to pay for, and I didn't have to worry about calculating that into the overall price.
Yeah, okay. So that means, let's say if a client say, I just want to eat healthy, but I cannot afford organic, then you would just go get the
conventional, get the cheapest thing that I could, and that would keep their bill down. And that way, the only really extra cost to them was my time and not necessarily the food, because they'd be buying that anyways.
Okay, good. So you're not a very rigid, like, no, nutritionist, because I know some, like, no, they'll say they sell food, like, no, it's 100% organic or whatever. Okay. Because I used to work for an organic cafe.
Okay, yeah, you know what? And that's all preference, right? Like, I mean, you could just do organic and say, I only buy organic, I only shop at Whole Foods. And I probably, if that's what your clientele were, or you wanted it to be, by all means, go for it. But I would rather see somebody eating healthily with conventional food than not eat healthy at all, right? Like, if they're going to go to a restaurant and eat, I'm going to swear here, use shitty food at a restaurant that has all these extra chemicals and God knows what kind of like salad dressings and oils that they use and all of that stuff. I would rather know that I was able to make the best decisions for them in the grocery store. So like olive oil versus canola oil and just little things like that, that was going to have an overall impact on their well-being versus organic versus conventional.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely nice thing about, like, being the flexible. So you make them accessible and you meet them where they are. Because I
100%.
recognize when I was working in that cafe, the pricing have to be at a premium price. So to be honest, not everyone can come in and buy
Exactly.
this really nice, delicious organic food, and they never tasted what it's like because
Yeah.
they just look at the pricing and they would walk away.
And then walk right out. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And I also want to add is this recording, you have permission to swear and say anything you like, as long as you feel comfortable for you to share on your site. Because this is
Absolutely.
my own personal record only. I'm not going to share it. Okay.
Okay.
So feel free.
Thank you. It'll come out again, I'm sure.
I have a Quebecois husband, so don't worry. They're very loud. Um, and what are some memorable challenges or big mistakes in your career life?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I wrote two. Public speaking was really hard for me when I first started out as a nutritionist. So getting up in front of people and talking about what I did was really tough. And once I was able to kind of break that down, it made sharing my business a lot easier. So just being a shy person, and I know a lot of us are like that, but if you can't actually put yourself out there like that and talk about what you're doing, you're not going to be successful as an entrepreneur, because you have to be able to share and love what you do and be confident in it. So that was probably one of the toughest things. But then another one that I did for a really long time, and it took a long time to get over, was comparing myself to other holistic nutritionists. Watching what they were doing and going, well, why am I not as successful as them? And looking at them and going, well, they're this successful, I should be this successful, instead of defining my own success and then reaching that goal. So that was probably one of the biggest breakthroughs for me, and something that I tell people all the time when they're starting out in business is don't look at the competition. It's a bad idea.
Okay. Then how did you break through these challenges, like about your shyness and also about the limiting beliefs that
Mhm.
less than other nutritionists?
Yeah. So the limiting beliefs I probably didn't actually tackle until recently. And I think that was actually probably not until I really got here in Switzerland. But the speaking and being a little bit more confident about what I was doing is I pushed myself to step into those things that made me scared. So for example, at the business networking group that I was part of, every week we would have to get up and say a 30-second blurb about what we did so that the visitors who were there could hear what we were doing, and then the people that you were sharing your business with would understand your elevator speech within a 30-second window. And you were also required on a rotation to do a presentation within that business networking group. And so it got me comfortable with speaking about health, about wellness, about nutrition in front of a group of people that were maybe not as educated in nutrition as I was, or knew absolutely nothing about nutrition at all. And so it was through that, and then through becoming an instructor at CSNN as well, that really pushed me forward in becoming more confident about what I knew and how I felt. And, you know, when somebody asked me a question and I can actually answer it, I was like, okay, maybe I actually do know what I'm doing and I can share what I'm doing and be happy doing it. And so I would say those were two of the first, you know, just getting your feet wet. You have to do it. If it scares you, you have to do it, because otherwise you're never going to do it, and then you will never move forward in business, in life, in anything really. So me and Sean say, if it doesn't scare you, then you're not doing it right.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to then ask about the limiting beliefs, like, so you said that you start working on it in Switzerland. Is there anything, any hint that is right now helping you to open up yourself and believe the value of who you are?
Yeah. Um, I know in nutrition school we learned about the body, mind, spirit connection and all of those things. And I was really fascinated with it back then. I loved, reading Caroline Meiss's books and all of that stuff that, we went through in school. But it never really sunk in. And then with my fibromyalgia, it got really bad. Obviously, it's not just fibro, it's now rheumatoid arthritis, most likely. But essentially, I got into a very, I'll say dark place, because it was pretty dark, depressed place. My body felt like it was failing me no matter what I did with nutrition, exercise, whatever. And so I learned to really actually sit with myself. And I started meditating and practicing yoga every single day for, I would say, probably 6 months. And being able to sit down with myself let me just tap into where I was in that moment and see what I needed in that instant, and whether that was through business or not. But a lot of the clarity that I get in business is when I'm sitting and I have time to have a clear mind. And that's when my breakthroughs actually happen, is when I'm calm and collected and able to just let things kind of roll through my mind, because it got me to like catch the shitty things that I was saying about myself and to myself, like, you're a failure, you're not doing well enough. Or are you actually? And like being able to question those things as they were coming through my head and changing the verbiage around that. So I started actually using mantras. So every time I would sit, I would, channel, healing energy, see where I was at, and just see kind of what popped up for the day. So, some of the mantras that came up throughout these times were everything is as it should be, and just like being okay with where I was at. Beat to the sound of your own drum, because that was, so important. That goes back to like, don't compare yourself to other people, and just continue on the work that you know that you're meant to be doing, sort of. So I would say, yeah, yoga, meditation, free time and space to think are key, which is just overall general well-being, really.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Like, it's a deeper journey. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then how do we balance between like, I guess it's with every mom's, right? Like, your own well-being, the inner world that you needs healing. And then at the same time, on the outside world, you're running a business and you're raising three kids. How do you balance and manage that balance?
Yeah. So mindset was one of them, like that again isn't something that I really took into account until recently, but it's made me see that our family and, well, I'm going to say my health and my family come first before my business. And before I would drive myself into the ground, like the business is the business and it takes all my energy, even if I don't have it, which I nipped in the bud right away, once I got to Switzerland. And I think it was really because I had the space to see how I was working before. I was working 60-hour weeks, and then I would come home and I have the three kids and three boys who are not exactly calm children. They're three active children and boys, and you can imagine. So I was working 60, 70-hour weeks, coming home and destroying myself. And I honestly think that it has had a huge impact on where I am now in my healing journey or wellness journey even. And so we now put the family first. We put health first. So if I'm not healthy, how can I help other people either be healthy or coach other people to have a healthy business and a lifestyle that they want? And yeah, Sean and I schedule everything to a T. So we actually sit down, we have meetings almost, I would say daily, if not by like twice a day, like just making sure that our schedules are on point. We know who's where, who's picking up who. And so organization is huge. We're both entrepreneurs. We both have to be places. And so that is huge. So yes, having a supportive partner was, well, it's quintessential to survival, really. But get help too. That's the next big step, is getting help, whether that's in the house or in your business. There's loads of platforms such as upwork.com that you can go to, and you can hire people to do social media, email marketing, pretty much everything, business consulting, anywhere from like $5 an hour to $150 an hour, right? So there's that as an option. Or hire a house cleaner, like hire somebody to actually do the work that you shouldn't really be doing, right? Like if you are out with a client and you can make $150 an hour and you're paying somebody $35 an hour to clean your house, instead of you cleaning your house and not being able to make that money, you're at least still making an income. And I think that is something that takes a while to get a grasp on, but important.
Was there a point you needed to hire a chef to cook for your family?
I really need one right now. So if you want to come over here and learn French and cook for me, I'd be cool with that. I've over here it's really hard to find, but I keep thinking about it. I'm like, I need somebody to cook my food for me. But we hired a nanny instead, who helps me with the cleaning and the laundry and other things in the house that I just don't have time to do. All my plants, my poor plant obsession that I've gotten to, I have like, I don't know, probably over 100 plants in the house right now. And so just somebody to kind of take that off the table for me has allowed me to do the food aspect of it. So
Yeah. This is something I'm imagining when I run my business. After cooking for my clients, do I still have the energy and attention to cook for my husband? I'm not so sure, but I'm a picky eater. I'm not sure I can find someone who can easily cook something that satisfies me. So.
And that's the thing with me too, is that after you become a chef, almost like, right, you become a chef and then you go to a restaurant and you're like, I could have made that better. That was really disappointing. And my husband hates it now because I'm so critical of everybody. But now I'm like, okay, well, I'll just have to cook for myself. And yeah, I did struggle with that a bit, coming home and cooking, but it's again just being organized. And I made sure that I meal prepped for us, and I did similar things that I would do for clients, have things in the freezer, have things prepped and ready, and that made it easier to come home and just kind of pull out and put on the table for everybody else. But that did become a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think it was my husband who commented that the most. Every time we go in a restaurant, he say, "I think you cook better. Why don't we just cook it?" And also he pay for the grocery bill at the moment. It's cheaper to cook at home, and he say tastier. But I say, but sometimes I just want food to be served to me.
Exactly. That's what I tell my husband too. I'm like, sometimes it's just nice to have the steak, arrive in front of you and there's nothing else to do. I don't have to think about what, like flipping it or grilling it properly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But it is cheaper. So often we do just go to the grocery store and buy something that
Yeah.
we would love to eat in a restaurant, and we do it that way instead. I
Yeah.
end up cooking, but
Yeah. What are some biggest mistake you or other nutritionists that you have met made when they start their own business?
yeah, we have a really good blog post on this actually, but I kind of did a mix of what was in the blog post / a couple other things that I've never really said. So losing patience. Like people want to start up their business and think that it's going to be successful right away. And so they end up starting, getting everything going, trying to get clients, failing, and then giving up, but not realizing that, a business takes more than, 3 months to get started and actually be successful. So I would say don't give up hope so soon. It takes time. The people that you're looking at on social media that are successful have probably been in business for 10 years, 5 years, something like that. So that's a huge one. I already said this earlier, but spending thousands of dollars on expensive startups and coaching costs. So I've seen people spend $10,000 on a coaching package to start their business, and they're already in debt by the time they've started their business and can't actually financially afford it. So a business doesn't have to be expensive to start up. It can be very, very, very affordable, especially if you do it smart the first time. So that is another huge one. Not starting right away. So people often wait until they're finished school. And I know school's intense. I know it takes a lot of brain power. And you're like, there's no way I could do one more thing. But think about it. If you're in school for a year, and 6 months into your program, you start thinking about setting up your bank account, setting up your business name, putting out your social media handles and sharing what you're already doing and learning in school. You can already start your client base and start your social media following before you even start your business. And so it's just a quicker way of getting started so that you're not coming out of school having to find a job or a position, which could be beneficial. I mean, you could go learn in a supplement shop or something, but it kind of allows you to have that foundation started before you even finish school. Mm-hmm. So that's one of mine. That kind of goes along with like, everything doesn't have to be perfect either before you put it out there. So nothing was perfect in my business when I put it out there, but there's only one way to know how to refine it. And that's actually getting clients and putting it out there and testing the waters, right? So don't wait is really my recommendation. The next one is overloading your clients with information. So we're taught in school, at least at CSNN, to do a more consulting approach towards clients. And working in depth with a client, perhaps somebody who's coming into a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or something like that, and have a very in-depth look at their nutrition. The majority of people that are probably going to be coming to you, though, really are starting way back at the standard American diet. And often we forget how far we've come on our own personal journey, so remember the time that you had to like cut juice out of your diet for the first time because you're like, why would I need to like cut fruit juice out altogether? Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of clients where that's where we were starting. People wanted to lose 10 pounds, but then drank half a bottle of orange juice a day. Mm-hmm. Well, you cut the orange juice out in the week, there's 4 pounds a month. So in 2 months, you're going to lose weight. So it's just finding that right balance between what your client can handle and actually achieve. And so I now take a coaching approach versus a consulting approach and recommend that for almost all nutritionists. I'm going to lead that as my last biggest mistake is yeah, just forgetting where we came from, like, and not putting yourself in the shoes of your client and understanding what it is that they need from you. And often we end up having more of a relationship on a coaching aspect, mindset, goal setting, understanding the fundamentals of nutrition and the basics of nutrition, and not needing to dive deep into, an autoimmune protocol. It might be necessary, but some people really just need to start at the basics. And you, as a consultant or as a nutritionist, need to figure that out for the client. They can't tell that to you.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Really, really good. I love that. So as a wrap up, what are some key points you want me to take away in order to run a successful business?
Yeah. You make your business what it is, not the bells and whistles and the things that you purchase, to help streamline your business. So you can buy all the management tools and all of those things, but in reality, it's you that makes your business. And so trying to maintain the mindset and the energy to run a business means that you have to take care of yourself. And so I think that you need to, like I said, put yourself out there, be certain that you're happy with what you're doing, because if you're not, then you're going to lose energy and not have the drive, I guess, to keep going in a business. So you really have to put yourself out there, ask for reviews, ask for, help initially from people around you to walk through your programs, and just make sure that there is a foundation for your business before you really get it up and running. And that would be, I guess I have a couple other notes. Like coaching and consulting isn't hard. Like, it doesn't matter what your niche is or what your market is. These things maybe don't come naturally, but it's not hard. It's just practice, right? So the more you share, the more you put yourself out there, the more you actually offer your services to people, the easier that it gets. But then again, you have to kind of break through that barrier, break through the mindset, the fear, the imposter syndrome that we all have, and just kind of go for it, right? And from there, you'll learn more about yourself and where you want to go within that business. And it's really what you make it, right? What my business was with Prepped with Love, working 60 hours a week, isn't feasible anymore with rheumatoid arthritis and 3 kids. And so I had to change my perfectionistic behaviors and my idea of being a crazy busy CEO of a big company to being okay with still making good money, but not pushing myself to the limit, to the point where I was making myself sick, right? So you really can form your business around your lifestyle and your wants and needs, and you just got to figure out what those are first. And that means being connected to yourself. So that's my roundabout key lessons.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Mm-hmm,
you
of course.
so much. Appreciate not just your time, but also your enthusiasm and all the insights. You're so generous to share.
I love doing this. This is honestly, Sean and I always promise to share. That's what I just said, right? Like, you have to put out the work that you're doing, or else you don't meet people, you don't collaborate with other professionals. And I think that honestly, it's these connections that we make, it honestly makes the work that we do so much better, because it's fulfilling when you are able to help people. And I think sharing is the best way of moving the industry forward, to be honest.
Yeah. So I do want to honor your time, because I did say it's about half an hour, maximum 45 minutes. So we have come to that point. I would be interested to know more about online business as well. But maybe I can either ask you another time by email, or if you have
I'm free now if you have a few minutes. I don't mind at all. My next call is not for another hour, so we're good.
Oh, okay. Because right now I'm also thinking about, having the flexibility to to do online business so I can still serve the English speaking community outside of Quebec. But I'm thinking about the legalistic challenge. Like, for example, when you're in Switzerland, um, are, are you still able to offer nutritional advice to people in Canada and in Switzerland? Like, how does it work?
Yeah. So the most important thing that you want to make sure that you have when you're working online or with people in potentially different countries or provinces to you is just making sure that you have liability coverage for insurance that covers you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's probably the only thing that I would say like absolutely spend money on is your insurance. And so as long as you're covered for worldwide insurance, you're fine.
So you can actually buy insurance to cover worldwide.
Yeah.
Because I'm also thinking about the jurisdiction. Like, for example, in Quebec,
Mhm.
I am not allowed to call myself nutritionist
Yeah.
unless I go to the dietitian college
Right.
in one of the 3 universities in Quebec. And I'm not interested to become a dietitian.
Fair enough.
So I cannot really practice as a nutritionist face to face in Quebec.
Right.
But I'm thinking, well, if I do it online and offer it to people worldwide, will I get into trouble? Because no.
No. So anybody, because it's an unregulated industry, there's nobody really looking for us. Yes, in Canada, we get some pushback from the dietitians. And I mean, that's the case in the States as well. But as long as you're calling yourself a natural nutrition coach or natural nutrition consultant or something like that, you're staying within your legal boundaries. It's up to the consumer, because we are an unregulated industry, to understand what our education is and what our background is. I'm going to be honest, I've never had anybody ask me what my qualifications are. Never. Even when I was cooking in their kitchen, you know, maybe one person asked me if I had food safe. Otherwise, they were honestly happy to just let me do whatever, which is kind of shocking, but you know, it's okay. It also can have a downside, is where we have, you know, the natural nutrition coaches who have done a 2-day weekend and now call themselves a natural nutrition coach. And so it's again up to you to kind of show what the difference is between a natural nutritionist and a dietitian, and help your clients see where the differences are. So as long as you're clear about it and you have a clear contract with them and clear liability insurance, you're generally fine.
Okay, good to know. That's very hopeful, because I do actually have a passion to do one-on-one. Because of my background, I've been through a journey of, like, you know, illness and recovery and rehab. I love like journeying with other people. But so when I saw the law in Quebec, I'm like, oh, it was a big drop for me, but it's encouraging to know I can have another platform to
Absolutely
offer my gift. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe do you mind, like, you know, in the future we keep in touch and
Of course, absolutely. Of course, absolutely. No,
yeah.
I would love to. I love sharing what we do, and I love helping new entrepreneurs get started. I think it's a beautiful way of living, and also I think it's really the future, right? Like, I mean, look at COVID, for example. You know, Sean and I haven't stopped working in the last 2 years. Our businesses are booming, and I think it's because we were lucky enough to kind of have these online platforms and online kind of insight and know what to do when something like this happens. So the flexibility of it has been, I mean, of course it comes with its challenges, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, but at the same time, you know, we did have a good foothold and we're able to kind of survive the pandemic because of it, I would say.
Good. Yeah. And I promise you, I will keep you updated about, like, you know, if I have, when I have my business, like, you know, and the steps, and yeah, because I love to show my appreciation, and at some point, like, you know, I hope you're able to either give back or move forward or give forward. This is something I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed sharing my time with you and answering your questions. And I am looking forward to see if you start a little meal prep business, because obviously that has a special place in my heart. yeah, I love cooking and sharing and building community that way. It's one of my favorite things too. I mean, you get to somebody's heart through their stomach, right? Like, I mean, that is a true saying. I think it's very true. So,
True.
yes, definitely stay in touch
Yeah.
and let me
I
know
so appreciate your approach about not selling people like an expensive package of like business coaching. Like, you can always start small so that you actually have room to be playful, to make mistakes. Yeah.
you have to. I mean, every business is different. Every person is different. And if you don't have that flexibility, you're gonna make mistakes. I mean, regardless of if you plan everything perfectly. I can't say my business journey has been like absolutely perfect, but if I didn't try, it would never end up being
Mm-hmm.
anything really, right?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right, Lynn. So I will let you go. But you're
Yeah.
also welcome to contact me.
Oh, thanks.
Um, if like, if there's anything you want to. Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate chatting with you.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you too. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye bye.